Hello, everybody. How is it going today? It is Tyler here with Zone In Sports, and in today's video, we will be zoning in on the Week 6 college football slate. Today, we will go over a few of our picks on Saturday, and then give out the rest of our picks. We'll probably go over about 5 or 6 games, and then give out the rest of our picks. I believe I have around 15 or so for this week, as well as, some other plays that we will consider for teasers and stuff like that. So real quickly, in case you see this in time, in case you didn't see in the video the other day, for tonight's Friday night games, we will be on Memphis money line. I gave it out at minus 152 the other day. It's actually minus 137 now, so hop on that, as well as the late 10:30 kickoff, UNLV. I think they could win this game, but just bought the point, man, to get them to plus 7.5. Nice, safe play. Minus 136 on the alternate line there. For the reasoning, man, just check out that other video. We went over it in that. And remember, we did cash already for this week. The UCF minus 2.5 on Wednesday night, man. That was a nice one. Looked like it was going to be close. First half was decent. I felt good about it either way, but then in the second half, UCF took off, man. So it was nice getting an easy victory in that one to start the week. So we'll see if we can continue that tonight and as well as into Saturday. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into that Saturday slate. A couple games I'll mention at noon real quick that I don't have a pick on. Arkansas, man, they were getting 8.5 at Mississippi State. It's moved to plus 9.5 for them now. Originally, I was all over it. Then I realized KJ Jefferson might not play. So this game is one that I won't mess with at all. Without KJ Jefferson, Mississippi State probably wins this one easily. Also at noon, a game that normally would be enticing. The Red River rivalry. Texas is laying 7.5 against Oklahoma. Remember, this is a neutral site game at the Cotton Bowl. Now, this line has moved around quite a bit. It opened at Texas minus 7.5, and then when it was announced that Quinn Ewers was starting, it moved to minus 9.5, then it went back down to minus 8.5, and it is now back to the original minus 7.5. So Quinn Ewers making his first start since that Alabama game, and Oklahoma, their quarterback Dylan Gabriel, I believe, is possibly still questionable. I know he might have a concussion or something, but either way, just wanted to mention that game. They're big name teams, so I'd mention them. If anything, for that Texas-Oklahoma, it may be the over. I definitely would not take a side. I originally was going to be all over Oklahoma actually to cover, but once I saw that Dylan Gabriel might not play, I was like, all right, I'm not even going to mess with it at all. Oklahoma has been very, very disappointing the last couple of weeks, man. They are in trouble, that's for sure. But yeah, this game should probably be high scoring. And moving on to our first pick of the day at noon. We got number 17, TCU, laying 7, as they travel to number 19, Kansas. Kansas Jayhawks, man, 5-0 for the first time in, I think it's been like 15, 16 years at least. But yeah, College Game Day is actually showing up here to this one, man. I would never expect College Game Day to be at Kansas, but here we are. For basketball game day, of course, they're there quite a bit. But for football, man, it's cool. We'll see how the fans show out there. I think it's going to be going wild. I heard a lot of talk out of there about how it finally feels like the school and students and everything is buying into the football team and not just focusing on the basketball team. And, that's going to happen when you come out and start out 5-0. But TCU also 4-0. Both teams have covered all of their games so far this year. The last matchup last season, TCU hosted Kansas and barely beat them 31-28. So I definitely think Kansas could keep it close this year again, as they're much better than they are this year than they were last year. And they're at home this time around as well. As far as the stats go, TCU's offense definitely has very favorable numbers to Kansas's defense, which Kansas's defense not terrible, but definitely not a great unit by any means. TCU's offense, I believe, is like number 2 in total yardage, top 5 in scoring as well. So it could be a very high-scoring game. That's why the over-under is up around like 68.5, I believe. Kansas, as far as their offensive ranks, they are number 17 in the nation when it comes to rushing yards. And TCU is number 43 defensively against the rush, which that's not bad by any means, but definitely gives Kansas a nice advantage there. Kansas number 12 scoring offense in the country against TCU's number 46 scoring defense in the country. So either way, I don't know if Kansas will win, but I definitely think that they are going to be able to cover here. It is +7, juiced to -122. I just went ahead and bought that extra half point there to get to +7.5 because I don't want to push, just in case they lose by a touchdown. And you get that at -130. So you get that extra half point, and it just goes from 122 to 130. Solid value there on the alternate line there. Kansas +7.5. First official straight play of the day. Also some trends here. Kansas has covered 7 of the last 10 against TCU. And Kansas has covered 8 straight games overall and 4 straight at home. TCU does have some decent trends. The one that I'd found to help us in our favor would be TCU has only covered 2 of their last 8 against Big 12 opponents. So in conference play, they usually play closer games. And as far as the total, like I said, I expect a lot of points. I'm not going to mess with it at all. TCU does have very good over trends. But yeah, either way, Kansas +7.5. We like them to keep it close at home here. -130 on the alternate line. And next up, another noon kickoff and another top 25 matchup. We go over to the SEC for this one. You got number 8, Tennessee, laying 2.5 at number 25, LSU. Over-under on this game is 64.5. Tennessee is 4-0 on the year, 3-1 against the spread. LSU is 4-1, 3-2 against the spread. These two teams have not played since 2017, which kind of surprised me. I know they are in opposite divisions in the SEC, but still you'd think they would play, every couple of years or so. But yeah, it's been 5 years since they matched up. So we'll see how Tennessee does, man, traveling to LSU. Tough place to play. Tennessee, man, they got the number 1 offense in the country when it comes to yardage per game, with 559.3 yards a game. That is insane. So LSU's defense on the other side, solid there. They are actually 19th in the country, only allowing 293 yards a game. But I'm not too worried about that, man. I think, number 2 passing attack as well. Number 3 in points scored, 48.5 points a game for Tennessee, man. The one thing that does worry me is they do have 5 turnovers. So if they do turn the ball over in this game, then that could hurt us big time. But I'm going to count on Hendon Hooker and the rest of the squad to take care of that football. They know that they got to. And yeah, I'm not worried about LSU's defense being having a solid year there. I think Tennessee is going to be able to do what they need to do offensively. And then when you look at the other side, Tennessee's defense, not great. Very, very bad against the pass, actually. 128th in the country. Sheesh. But 21st against the rush, though. So LSU offensively is actually much better running the ball than they are passing. They don't pass a whole lot. 68th in the country there, where they're 29th in rushing. But like I said, man, Tennessee, they don't even allow 100 a game. 21st in the country there for their rush defense. So, they only allow 19 points a game as well. So, 29th scoring defense against LSU's 33rd ranked scoring offense. Unless LSU finds a way to pass the ball effectively, I don't see them being able to score a whole lot. It just depends who controls the game, like who controls the tempo. I think Tennessee's going to be able to get it going, and, they're going to be able to score, and that's going to put LSU in a spot where they're not going to be able to sit there and run the rock as much as they usually do. So I think Tennessee is going to go ahead and get this victory. That will be our straight play on this one. We will be taking Tennessee money line. We'll go ahead and lay the juice -152. I usually will still give those out as long as they're not longer than not longer, I mean shorter than minus 160. So minus 152, we'll take that, man. I think that's good enough value, man. I wouldn't hate laying the 2.5, minus 120. That's still a good play there, but I'm just going to take money line, man, not worry about the points. As far as trends go, we got Tennessee, man. They have won 6 of their last 7 straight up. As far as their ATS trends, they are not great, but, they've won 6 of their last 7 straight up overall, and we're just on money line, so we don't got to worry about the spread. LSU has only covered 1 of their last 6 in October, and they've only covered 1 of their last 5 in week 6. As far as the total goes, Tennessee, very, very good over trends, and then LSU has very good under trends. So I do not have a play on the total at all. I would actually lean under if I had to go one way or the other, but I think it would be very close to where they have it set at, so I'm not messing with it. We're just going to run with the official straight play on this one of Tennessee money line minus 152. Another pick at noon. We will not go over much here, but we will be on Louisville money line minus 134 at Virginia. Virginia is just very, very bad. Now, the reason this line is so close is because Malik Cunningham is questionable, so I'm not sure if he's going to play or not, and I'm just going to try not to worry about it. We're just going to take Louisville money line at the minus 134. Good value there in case he does play. That line probably will jump up at least a little bit. So we'll just hope that he plays, and if he doesn't, I'll just count on Louisville to still be able to make enough plays to beat a very bad Virginia team. A couple more picks at noon, man. We'll just run through a couple of them. Buffalo money line minus 128. We will be on that as a straight pick over Bowling Green. And also a Big Ten matchup here. We will be taking Maryland as they host Purdue. And we're just going to take money line, man. Maryland money line minus 160. Another straight pick there. Then moving on to the 3:30 slate. Don't have anything wrote down for this one, but Oklahoma State is laying 9.5 as they host Texas Tech. Seems like a lot of points. Oklahoma State is a team that I like a lot and definitely think they win this game. I was going to look to the first half spread. Was hoping it would be minus 4.5 or 5.5, but it was 6.5, which I think is solid. But I decided to go ahead and look at the alternate lines. Maybe just give us the full game, man, and give them the whole time to get their offense going. And their offense is one of the best in the country. I think it actually might be. Yeah, it's definitely top 5, 100%. Either way, man, what we decided to do here is we took Oklahoma State alternate line. We actually bought 3 points, man, down to minus 6.5, and it's still minus 156. So not the greatest value, but like I said, anything better than minus 160, I will be comfortable giving out as a straight pick. And it's a smart thing to do to buy points where you can. Oklahoma State minus 6.5 will be on that as a straight play on the alternate line there. Now here is a big matchup. We'll go over top 25 in the Pac-12. You got number 11 Utah laying 3.5 as they go to UCLA, number 18. Hey, UCLA 5-0 on the year, 3-2 against the spread. Utah 4-1 on the year, 4-1 against the spread. They have won and covered every game since that week 1 tragedy against Florida. So the over-under here, 64.5. Definitely would consider that over for teasers. Not going to mess with it as a straight play at all, though. The last matchup between these two teams was last year, and UCLA went to Utah and got whacked, man. 44-24. Utah got the victory last season. As far as the stats go in this one, when looking at Utah's offense, they are solid. They definitely score a lot of points. 11th in the country of 42 a game. Of course, outside of the Florida game, they have had a pretty easy schedule. But number 24 rushing offense with 204 yards a game, where they're more middle of the pack. Passing, man, they pass when they need to, but haven't really had too much. And 24th ranked rush offense, but that is countered by UCLA, number 9 against the run defensively, only allowing 85 yards rushing a game. And they only allow 20.8 points a game. That's good for 38th in the country. If anything, they're 77th against the pass. But like I said, Utah's offense doesn't really pass that much. They just do when they got to. And they haven't really had to do that much yet. So I'm not too worried about UCLA's pass defense. What I'm more worried about is Utah's offense. See if they are able to do anything with the pass if their offense can't get the run going, which I don't think they will, man. UCLA's run defense very, very good. Probably helps that they go up against a good run attack in practice, going against their own guys. But yeah, not too worried about UCLA defense. I think Utah will be able to score a good amount of points. Definitely nowhere near their average of 42, though. I could see them getting around the 28 to 34, 35 range. As far as the other side with UCLA's offense, man, they are number 8 in the country when it comes to total yards, 506 per game. But that is countered by a very good defense in Utah, as they are number 13 in the country with just 278 yards allowed per game. They are much better against the pass than they are against the run. So that is something that you could be worried about there. They're still solid against the run, 48th in the country, slightly better than the middle of the pack. But UCLA 21st in rushing offense with 213 rushing yards a game. I definitely think they're going to be able to run well in this game. Zach Charbonnet and company, man, they're going to be able to get what they need done. They also average a lot of points per game up there with Utah. Utah 11th in the country, UCLA 14th. So, both teams should be able to score a decent amount. Straight play I'm going to be on, though, we're going to go with UCLA team total over 30.5. Now, I know they usually struggle against Utah, but I just think, coming off a big win last week against Washington, you're still at home here, man. I think they're going to be able to score over that 30.5, at least 4 touchdowns and a field goal, if not more. So I like that there, minus 113 on FanDuel for that. I was considering taking UCLA plus the 3.5 there, but I feel more comfortable with the team total over, because I think for them to cover that plus 3.5, they'll have to score at least 31. I'll go ahead and go over a couple trends, even though we are not picking a side technically. Utah 6-1 against the spread, their last 7 overall. They've covered 5 straight against UCLA. They've covered 11 of their last 12 games in October. 6 straight against teams with a winning record. UCLA, they've covered 6 of their last 8 overall. They've covered 5 straight against Pac-12 teams, but of course none of those being Utah's. We just said, Utah's covered 5 straight against UCLA. One bad trend there for UCLA was they've only covered 1 of their last 6 against teams with a winning record. So something to worry about there. As far as the over-under, the over in this game head-to-head has hit 3 of the last 5, with 1 of them being a push. Utah has went over in 7 of their last 8 on the road, and they've went over in 5 straight October games. UCLA, over in 8 of their last 10 overall, and 6 of their last 7 conference games. So like I said, definitely considering taking the over between UCLA and Utah at 64.5, and some teasers, buy just a few points on it or whatever. But for our straight pick on this one, man, UCLA team total over 30.5 at minus 113. And we'll run through a few more picks here in the afternoon slate. We're going to take Mid-Tennessee State on the alternate line of plus 10.5. I did not have this available on FanDuel, of course. I didn't feel like going to look on DraftKings, but I would assume it's around minus 130, minus 135. So, yeah, we'll buy the point to get them plus 10.5. Definitely think this game will be close. I'm not sure necessarily why the spread's as much as it is, probably because UAB's at home. But yeah, definitely on a straight pick here from Mid-Tennessee State plus 10.5. Also, the over-under in that game, 52.5. We will consider taking the over there and some teasers. Another straight play here at 3:30. We got Toledo minus 4.5 at minus 112 against Northern Illinois. I like them even though they're on the road, man. Toledo's a team that I liked a lot last year, back them a lot this year as well so far. And, they've done well for us other than the one game against San Diego State. But that didn't worry me at all. They bounced back for us last week, and I think they will continue to do well here and be able to cover minus 4.5 for us. Another 3:30 kickoff. We got Tulane. We're going to buy a point here and take Tulane minus 2.5 at home over East Carolina. I think this game could be very, very good, but I think Tulane's defense has showed that they have been a solid unit so far this year, and I think East Carolina has struggled in some games that I expected them to win more easily, where they have actually also showed up in games where I thought they wouldn't as much. So you're not sure what you're going to get out of them, but I just like Tulane at home, man. I think their defense gets the job done, and they'll be able to cover that minus 2.5 for me. Like I said, that'll be an alternate line. It's probably solid value because the minus 3.5 is plus 100, but not available on FanDuel. Didn't want to look anywhere else. Didn't feel like it. Didn't feel the need to. Minus 2.5 is probably still like minus 120-ish. Minus 125. Definitely take that by that point, man. Don't want to take minus 3.5, then they win by a field goal, and then you're just upset. So definitely by that point there, man. Tulane minus 2.5 on the alternate line. A 4 o'clock kickoff, we will be on number 21, Washington. To bounce back this weekend, they will cover minus 13.5 at Arizona State. It's at minus 115 there on FanDuel. So yeah, definitely on that. Washington minus 13.5. Another 4 o'clock kickoff, we will take Duke on the alternate line, minus 2.5. Again, another one that was not available on FanDuel, but with the minus 3.5 being minus 102, just know the minus 2.5 will still be decent value, around like minus 125 to minus 130. So that's what will be on there. Duke over Georgia Tech, man, they will cover minus 2.5 for us. All right, moving into the later matchups. The next straight pick we have will be at 7:30. You got number 16, BYU, getting 3.5 points as they travel to Notre Dame. Over-under on this game is 50.5. You got Notre Dame at 2-2 on the year, 2-2 against the spread. BYU 4-1, but just 2-3 against the spread. Not really going to go over too many trends here because they're not going to back up our pick. Which I'll just tell you right now, we're going to be on BYU plus 3.5. I don't care that they're on the road, man. This Notre Dame team stinks. And I think BYU, as long as they're able to score at least a decent amount of points. If Notre Dame's defense goes crazy, then they probably win. But I think BYU will be able to score enough. And, I think they win the game, but you're going to give me 3.5 with them. I'll go ahead and take that, man. We'll take the points there. Plus 3.5, minus 108 for BYU. BYU does not have very good trends against the spread, where Notre Dame does have good trends against the spread. For the total, which I don't have a play on, BYU has good over trends. Notre Dame has good under trends. I will go over a couple stats real quick. So one thing that stood out to me that I loved a lot. Notre Dame on defense has 0 takeaways, where BYU on offense has 0 turnovers. So that's a huge thing for me, especially in college games. I mean, really in NFL as well, but turnovers are huge, man, especially when you have close spreads like a 3.5 here. And as long as this holds up here and BYU does not turn the ball over at all, that should help us a lot. So one thing that stuck out to me, number 24th in the country is BYU's passing offense at 293 yards a game, going against Notre Dame's defense, which is 53rd in the country at 213 pass yards a game, which that is not terrible by any means. It's slightly better than middle of the pack, but either way, definitely an edge there for BYU's offense. They don't run the ball great, but 153 yards a game is solid, and Notre Dame's defense hasn't been stopping it that well, giving up 142 a game, putting them at 70th in the country there. 45th in the country is BYU's offense scoring-wise, 34 points a game, where Notre Dame's defense gives up 24 a game, which is 63rd in the country. BYU 446 yards a game total. I think their offense will be good enough. Notre Dame's defense, I actually thought they'd be a little bit higher ranked in some of these categories. And you can't even say, it's because they played Ohio State week 1. Ohio State's offense didn't really do much against them week 1. So, I don't know. I think BYU definitely, I think they can win this game, man. I feel like they're only underdogs because they're at Notre Dame. Defensively, man, I think BYU has, a couple good edges here. Not a lot of takeaways for them, but 4 is pretty solid. And Notre Dame, just 2 turnovers offensively. The main thing that stuck out to me here is BYU 18th in the country against the pass, only allowing 175 passing yards a game. That is very, very impressive, especially considering that they played a game against Oregon in which they gave up quite a good amount of yards. So to still only allow 175 a game, man, 18th in the country, very good. Going against Notre Dame, which is 97th in passing offense, 209 yards a game. So I expect them to be, right around that. They might not even get over 200 though. Rushing wise, they're much better, 65th in the country, still not great though. BYU defensively is 93rd in the country against the rush. So if anything to worry about with BYU's defense, maybe Notre Dame gets it going on the ground, but I don't think that'll be enough to be able to keep up with BYU. So Notre Dame's offense does not score a whole lot of points, man. 97th in the country, 25 points a game. Not very good there, especially when, they had a game in which I think they scored 45 or so against North Carolina, which we all know has a very bad defense. So, that number would be even worse if it wasn't for them having that matchup. So, I don't know. Not real great numbers here, but there's a few where we have the edge in BYU's favor. And, yeah, we're on BYU plus 3.5, minus 108 as a straight play, man. We like that. Another 7:30 kickoff. Couple of them here. Don't have anything wrote down as far as notes, but a couple that I like a lot. Kansas State, man, number 20th in the country. We'll take a money line, minus 126 at Iowa State. I am not worried about them being on the road here. Iowa State, I'm not expecting their offense to be able to do much here. I mean, they only scored, 11 or 14 or some weird amount against Kansas last week. And Kansas State's defense is definitely a lot better than Kansas's defense. So, yeah, we're all over Kansas State money line, minus 126. Very, very good value. If you want to lay minus 1.5 and minus 110, go ahead. I might throw an alternate minus 6.5 out there for myself. But as an official straight play, we'll be on Kansas State money line, minus 126. And also a 7:30, a line that has moved a lot, which you would think might scare me off the pick, but not at all. I'm just going to thank the people for getting that line moved and just making it easier on me. South Carolina was getting 10.5 at number 13 Kentucky, but that line then dropped down to 7 and then 6.5, and now has even changed to 5.5, and that was just in the last hour or so when I was finishing up this video. So our straight play on this one, we're taking the home team, man, the Kentucky Wildcats, minus 5.5, minus 110. We're all over that as a straight play. When I play them in parlays and stuff like that, we'll definitely just run money line or maybe even double results. But as a straight play, definitely going to be on Kentucky, minus 5.5 there. And next we will have the last straight play that we will go over, the last game we're going over here. 8 o'clock kickoff. We've got the Florida State Seminoles getting 3 points as they travel to number 14, NC State. Both teams are 4-1 this year. Florida State 3-2 against the spread, and NC State just 2-3 against the spread. Over-under on this game is 50.5. Last matchup was last season. NC State went to Florida State and beat them 28-14. I'm not going to go over a whole lot of stats here. NC State, I just expect their defense to be able to control this game. Florida State does have some good offensive rankings, but NC State's defense is very, very good, and I like them to be able to do well, especially being at home. I expected a lot more out of Florida State's offense last week at home against Wake Forest, a team that gave up a crap ton of points to Clemson. So I'm not expecting Florida State to be able to keep up with NC State. Not that I think NC State's going to go out there and blow the doors off them, because they don't have a great offense either by any means. But the way they play, I think that they will control the tempo of the game, and it'll be like a well-grinded out game that they'll be able to win by at least a touchdown or maybe 10 points, something like that. The one thing that I did like a lot for NC State's defense as well is the 7 takeaways this year, man. They have forced 7 turnovers. Now, Florida State's only turned the ball over twice themselves, but either way, that element could be there. 7 turnovers on the year for NC State's defense. As long as they can force at least one in this game, I will be super confident in us hitting this. Even if they don't, I still like it, man. But our straight play on this will be an alternate line. I don't want to lay -3 and then have them win by a field goal and we get a push. Might as well just buy the little half point, man. We'll take NC State -2.5, -130 there on the alternate line. As far as trends go, you got Florida State. They've only covered one of their last 6 against the spread following a straight-up loss. And they have not covered in 5 straight at NC State. And they've only covered 3 of their last 10 against teams with a winning record. NC State has covered 7 in a row following a straight-up loss. They've covered 12 of their last 16 home games. And they have covered 9 of the last 11 when hosting Florida State. And they have covered 17 of the last 21 overall against Florida State. Home team has covered 9 of the last 12 in this matchup, and the favorite has covered 4 in a row. So, yeah. Over the last, 10 to 20 years, NC State seems to dominate this matchup, especially when it comes to covering. So, lots of good trends there to help us out. We're all over NC State -2.5 at -130 on the alternate line as our last straight pick there. So, before we go over the teaser considerations, I will run through all of our straight picks real quick. Remember, we hit UCF -2.5 Wednesday night. And for Friday night, we got Memphis moneyline and UNLV +7.5 on the alternate line. And for our Saturday straights, we got Kansas +7.5 on the alternate line. You got Tennessee moneyline, Louisville moneyline, Buffalo moneyline, Maryland moneyline, UCLA team total over 30.5. We got Oklahoma State -6.5 on the alternate line. We got Mid-Tennessee State +10.5 on another alternate line. We got Toledo -4.5, Tulane -2.5 on the alternate line, Washington -13.5, Duke -2.5 on the alternate line, BYU +3.5. We got Kansas State money line, Kentucky -5.5, and then NC State to finish the night -2.5 on the alternate line. And some teaser considerations that I will go over. First one being Michigan -22.5 at Indiana. Definitely get them down to like -17, somewhere in that area. Definitely we'll consider them in some teasers. Ole Miss -16.5 at Vandy. Definitely like them to get the job done here in this matchup, but we will definitely buy them down to probably -9. Another one here, Tulsa -5.5 at Navy. We'll just get them down to basically pick on -1/2, or just take a money line and parlays, or however you're playing it. Just get them down to just to win. I almost took Tulsa on that straight pick there, but sometimes teams struggle to adjust against the academy teams like Navy. But either way, I like Tulsa to win that matchup for sure, so we'll consider them for teasers. Middle Tennessee State and UAB will consider taking the over 52.5. Now remember, we are on Mid Tennessee State plus 10.5 as a straight pick in that one. We'll also consider that for teasers, as well as that game going over. It's at 52.5, so we'll probably get that down to 47.5, maybe 46.5. But somewhere in there will definitely be where we take that. Another one that I considered possibly taking straight, North Carolina plus 3.5 at Miami. Miami has been very, very bad offensively lately, and their defense has even showed that they could be exposed. As a couple of weeks ago, they were upset by Mid-Tennessee State at home. Very surprising there. I definitely think North Carolina can win this game, but it just seems like one of those ones that I don't know. I'm just going to buy some points and some teasers, man. Get UNC to like plus 7.5, maybe plus 9, 10, and some parlays and whatnot. Another one here, Western Kentucky, plus 6.5 at UTSA. I think this game will be very high scoring, but if you get Western Kentucky up to like plus 10.5 or 11.5, I like that a lot. Definitely think they keep it within a touchdown and a field goal for sure, and possibly even win it. But with it being at UTSA, and I like that team a lot as well, I figured I'd just consider it for teasers, man. Western Kentucky up to like plus 10.5 or 11.5. Another one here, another big spread in the Big Ten. Ohio State minus 26.5. Get them down to like minus 19 or minus 20. Definitely like them to go to Michigan State and absolutely whoop them. We will consider Texas Tech and Oklahoma State under 66.5. I was actually going to take that as a straight play as the number was bouncing around. I think it went from 65.5 where it opened all the way up to 69.5, and that's when I was like, all right, I'm probably going to take this under. Then it dropped back down to 66.5, which I still like the under, but we're just going to consider it for teasers here. Under 66.5, man, probably get it up to 71.5, maybe 72.5, somewhere in there. That works for me. Next one will be Wake Forest minus 16.5 against Army. This is actually the first and only home pick that we have in the teaser considerations. All the other ones we have are, a couple totals, but the rest are all teams that are on the road, which is kind of sketchy. Feels like I'm setting myself up for failure, but I'm not worried about it, man. I feel how I feel about these games, and if they're all on the road, screw it. But the one home one, Wake Forest, man, they host Army, minus 16.5. I think they could cover that. Army has been bad this season. Definitely thought they'd be better than what they've shown. But, like I said, sometimes teams don't adjust well against the academy teams. So instead of taking the straight pick, we'll just consider for teasers, Wake Forest minus 16.5, get them down to probably minus 10, minus 9. And another bigger spread here, Clemson minus 20.5 at Boston College. Definitely get them down to minus 13 or 14. Definitely think they went easily there. Seems like their offense have finally started to get going, especially against some solid teams. So, maybe they go in and absolutely whoop Boston College. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 17-point game. That's why I'm just considering it for teasers, man. Clemson down to like minus 13 or 14. And the last teaser consideration that we have is Coastal Carolina minus 13.5 at UL Monroe. This is a game Coastal will 100% win, but I'm not going to lay 13.5. We'll go ahead and probably take them at either like a minus 6 or minus 7 or like a minus 9, minus 10. It just depends on how the parlays play out and whatnot. You just got to play with the lines and see, everyone's shooting for a different, goal, different payout. So you just got to play with those lines and see where you can get the odds to. And if you want to see how we play it, just remember, go follow us over on Twitter at Zonin Sports, and we give out all of our teasers and parlays every Saturday morning over there for college football, as well as on Sundays for the NFL slates as well. But yeah, we went over all of our straight picks, went over some stats and trends for I think 5 or 6 of those key games. Should be a good weekend, man. I'm feeling pretty good going into it. I like that, we got some different totals in there. We got some favorites, underdogs, a little bit of everything this week, man. Plus, we already hit Wednesday night, starting off with that UCF minus 2.5, man. So feels good, and after a good weekend last weekend, see if we can keep the momentum going. Last week we did give out some underdog money line sprinkles. I'll only ever do that if I have like at least 4 in a week. Now, of course, there's gonna be a good amount of underdogs that decide to win every Saturday with how many games there are, but yeah, I'm not gonna give out underdog money line sprinkles unless I have at least 4. 4 to 8 is usually what I look for when it comes to taking underdogs on the money line. This week I only like a couple, but I prefer just to stick with the straight plays, taking the points with them. So yeah, not giving out any underdog money line sprinkles in this video, but we'll try to find some more of those in the weeks going forward. But yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up. Hope you guys enjoyed. Remember, like I said, follow us on Twitter. Link is in the description, @ZoneInSports. We'll update you on picks if lines move, different injury news and stuff like that. And we'll post all of our parlays and teasers that we make Saturday morning. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate it a lot. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Let's make some money this weekend. Peace.